Well, good Saturday morning, everybody. How's everybody doing out there in internet land? Hopefully, everybody is. Well, good Saturday morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right, I got one. I know that YouTube's working. And let me check on Rumble. Give me 1 second here. Make sure it's up and running, and it should be. YouTube's. Yep. All right, we're live. We're cooking. All right. Howdy, everybody. Good Saturday morning to all of you fine folks out there in internet land. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Welcome, one and all, to Saturday Morning Brunch, a little informal gathering that we have here to discuss news items from the week that you, because of all the hard work you've been putting in and doing, may not have had a chance to get a look at. We're going to talk about them, go over them in a little detail, and basically have some fun doing it. So if you're out there in the chat, regardless of whether you're on Rumble or whether you're on YouTube, give a shout out. We kind of like to hear from you, know you're out there. Absolutely. We want to know that you are a part of the audience, and we'd like for your participation as much as possible. So please, please, please say hello. We'd love to hear from you. I'm just putting some last minute things together here. It won't take me but a second. From you. All right, there we go. I want to be able to read chat in both Rumble and YouTube, and I'm always trying to find a way to do this stuff. It's always a fascinating process to me to try and figure this out. So if you're out there, give a shout this morning. Would love to hear from you. We'll give everybody a few minutes to get in here and talk amongst ourselves. Now, for those of you who may be new to Front Porch Brunch, what do I envision this live stream to be? What do I want to see it become? Basically, it's this. It's a show that is for you. Because as I've said on previous occasions, you're in a situation where you are out there 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week just humping it for all you're worth. You're trying to make money to take care of yourself, take care of your spouse, take care of your significant other, take care of the kids, pay the bills, keep the roof over your head, keep the food on the table, keep the lights on, keep the water running, keep the cable going, everything that you are responsible for. And in the middle of all that, you've got to deal with coworkers that drive you crazy, family members that drive you crazy, a boss that drives you crazy, life situations that drive you crazy. You're running around. You're absolutely frazzled to the bone. You don't know which way is up. So you don't have time to keep up with the news. That is where we come in. As your simple and humble Front Porch Conservative, we are here to talk about the news items that maybe you didn't get a chance to look at while you were out there killing it all week long, and hopefully not killing yourself, but you get my point. This is a live stream that is for you. Usually Saturday mornings are that nice chill part of the weekend where you're starting to unwind from the previous week. Maybe you're actually having brunch with your family members, or you've got a load of laundry in the washing machine, or it's in the dryer waiting for you to fold, whatever. Okay, put in your earbuds, relax, have some fun with us. We'll talk about the news. If you feel like dropping a comment, please do so. But above all else, give me some thumbs up. I'd like to see this thing become a big thing on the weekends. We are not monetized on YouTube, but we are on Rumble. So if you'd like to throw some coin in the cup, it's not going to hurt my feelings in the slightest. But if you can't, or situations don't allow it, then please don't put yourself in any position that causes you harm. I don't want to see anybody do that. But that's what we're trying to do here on Front Porch Brunch. Give you, the viewer, the chance to catch up on the news, do it in a nice, relaxed, chilled manner, maybe even meet some people that you didn't know before. That's one of the beauties of social media, is that one guy could be up in Bangor, Maine, and another guy could be down in San Diego, California, and you're all watching the same live stream together. Before you know it, you've made a new friend. Granted, you're not going to go drink beer anytime soon together, but you get my point. So if you're out there, say hello in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. Doesn't matter if you're on either side, on Rumble or on YouTube. So that's where we are. That's who we are. That's what we're doing. We're going to have some fun. So let's start with the first big news item of the week that we're going to discuss anyway. There's no particular order to this. These are just stories that I think are very interesting. And they say an awful lot about who and what and where we are as a society, or at least, in the American experiment thereof. So, as we get into this, let's start with our first news item of the week. As some of you may have heard, former President Donald Trump went on CNN for a town hall up in New Hampshire. Now, I am not going to lie about this at all. When I heard that the Trump campaign had agreed to do this, I just about went straight up. Look, let's be honest about it. There is no love lost between CNN and former President Donald Trump. Okay? Trump is a pragmatic conservative populist. CNN is constituted almost completely of liberals. They have never really given the man fair coverage in all the years from the time he came down the escalator in 2015 to this current day. So my thought in the matter is, why would you go on a network that hates your guts, that's probably going to set you up, and try to do everything they can to make you look as bad as possible? And I've never quite understood Trump's fascination with wanting to do that sort of thing. But he did it anyway, because it's Trump. That's Trump. This is what he does. Well, I'm going to play some clips. And I mean, the exchange went about a little over an hour. Now, there is an interesting side note to this. I've heard it said, and I have not seen this in print myself, but I know Tim Pool was commenting on this maybe a couple of days ago, that town hall was supposed to go for an hour and a half. CNN cut it off shortly after 9 o'clock. And can't say as I'm too surprised, because frankly, Donald Trump was taking Caitlin Collins, the moderator, proverbially speaking, out back of the woodshed and just absolutely spanking that poor girl. So, yeah, she was being taken to school by this guy. But I want to play you some clips just to give you an idea of why Trump is still Trump and why the magic may still be there. So let's start with the first one. Take a look at this. This is kind of cute.
Speaking of New York, I want to ask you about a significant verdict that was reached yesterday. I know this is something you want to weigh in on as well. A Manhattan jury found that you sexually abused the writer E. Jean Carroll and defamed her. You've denied this. But what do you say to voters who say it disqualifies you from being president?
Well, there aren't too many of them, because my poll numbers just came out. They went up. Okay.
Oh my God, that's just classic Trump. It's this kind of stuff that he does. I was watching Friday Night Tights, which is a live stream on YouTube, Rumble, a few other places. It's dedicated more to issues of pop culture, movies, TV shows, comic books, video games, etc. And it's a really fun show. They've been on now for almost 5 years. And if you're not watching them, I really recommend them to you. But the host, Gary Beekler, who goes by the screen name Nerderotic, made a statement toward the end of the show. He said, I'm glad Trump is back, because now politics is fun again. Now, I'm not going to fault him for making the statement, so don't misunderstand me here, okay? But what kind of got me about it was people are looking for authenticity. They hate, doesn't matter if Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Communist, doesn't matter. People want genuine individuals. They want to see authenticity. And Trump, like him, don't like him, agree with him, disagree with him, give him this. What you see is what you get. And, in whatever situation he's in, if he can inject his brand of humor into it, he's going to do it. And that little snippet that we just played is just one example of it. I'll play another one here real quick if I can find it. Yeah, here we go. Yeah, this is one of the best exchanges of the night. And I want to set this up before I play it. Caitlin Collins, who's the moderator of the town hall, asks him a series of questions about the classified documents, and the raid down at Mar-a-Lago. Well, Um, Trump's trying to answer. He answers once. He answers again. Um, uh-oh. Well, can you guys hear that dog in the background? I've got my window open, so I don't know if you guys can hear that or not. So I may have to wind up shutting that here in a second. But anyway, yeah, if you all are on Rumble, if you can hear that, if you heard that, just give me a shout in chat and let me know. If needs be, I'll just shut the window. But anyway, getting back to my point. He answers the question about the raid at Mar-a-Lago and the classified documents that are down there. He answers it again. Caitlin Collins keeps pressing him on the issue. And finally, you have the following.
Very simple thing. You're a nasty person, I'll tell you.
Can you answer why you held on to the documents?
I was negotiating and we were...
Again, this is classic Trump. This is what he does. You know, I mean, that took me back to 2016 when he called Hillary Clinton a nasty woman. You know, in I believe it was either their third or their final debate. But yeah, I mean, he tried to answer the question. He tried to answer a second time. She kept pressing the issue. She wouldn't let it go. And then finally he's like, you're just a nasty person. You know, and the whole crowd erupts. Now, these are some of the snippets from the town hall. Like I said, he went just a little bit over an hour. It's not so much the town hall that I want to focus on. It's the reaction afterwards. Because I tell you what, I've never seen a near nigh mutiny at a news network, much like the folks at CNN had toward their executives who set this thing up. Now, before we get to that, though, I want to show you the reaction of a typical CNN viewer. Take a look at this. This to me is just fascinating. I saw this and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I have no idea who this individual is. His name is Jonathan Mukalik. Quote, I've been a lifelong viewer of CNN through the ups and downs and choice decisions. This decision, however, was the last straw. As of tonight, MSNBC is my new news channel. Thanks CNN for making it easy to cut the string. Hashtag bye-bye. Hashtag CNN Town Hall. Now, his reaction, I think, speaks to a lot of different things. And I think it's one of the things that kind of bugs me about modern society is that there are people, and this could also be true of people on the right side of the spectrum. Okay, so just let me be very clear about this up front. It just boggles my mind that you can't even sit there and listen to a person who has different opinions from you without you going 7 kinds of crazy over it. I mean, as I said, I have no idea who this young man is. Don't know anything about him. Don't know his background. Don't know anything else. But I've got a feeling his reaction is typical of most people that watch CNN and most people on the political left. They can't stand the idea that someone is offering an opinion that's different than the belief that they hold to. I mean, one of my favorite pollsters out there these days is Rich Barris, a.k.a. the People's Pundit. If you're not following him, do so. And he came up with a term for it. He calls it the hive mind. Liberalism, progressivism, whatever you want to call the modern left. Okay? I personally prefer the term stinking communist, but okay, whatever. Basically, they act like a beehive. And in a beehive, if you know anything about the behavior of bees, they all work like drones. They all fly the same, have the same task, they do the same thing. They are in the service of their colony. Okay? That is what modern liberalism, progressivism, Marxist communism, whatever you want to call it, that is what they're trying to institute. a hive mind. A mindset that says we will tolerate no dissenting opinion. We will not hear anyone else. We don't want to hear from you. Don't show us the facts. We have our beliefs. We know what is true, and we will not be swayed in those beliefs. That's what this young man reflects. But now, he's not the only one. I said a minute ago, I've never seen a near-nine mutiny like what went on at CNN. Let me show you a clip from Anderson Cooper, one of the star journalists of the network. And when I think of how low they've sunk compared to what they used to have on that network, it just boggles the mind. But take a listen to this. So Anderson Cooper, the next night is on his show, Anderson Cooper 360. And before he ever starts anything else, he does like almost a 2-minute monologue. But I want to play you part of what he says. And it's going to run just a little over almost a minute. So stick with me on this, because I think what he says on this is absolutely fascinating. Check this out.
That man you were so upset to hear from last night, he may be president of the United States in less than 2 years. And that audience that upset you, that's a sampling of about half the country. They are your family members, your neighbors, and they are voting. And many said they're voting for him. Now, maybe you haven't been paying attention to him since he left office. Maybe you've been enjoying not hearing from him, thinking it can't happen again. Some investigation is going to stop him. Well, it hasn't so far. So if last night showed anything, it showed it can happen again. It is happening again. He hasn't changed, and he is running hard. You have every right to be outraged today and angry and never watch this network again. But do you think staying in your silo and only listening to people you agree with is going to make that person go away?
Okay, did you catch that? I couldn't believe when I heard this what he just did. You have the right not to watch this network again. Anderson Cooper just told viewers of CNN not to watch their network because they put Donald Trump on in a town hall. Yeah, Robert, you got that right, brother. Retardisms. That's a good way to put it. A real good way to put it. More than half is right. Yeah, more than half. A significant majority, I would argue. But, the man literally just sat there and told viewers of CNN that if they didn't watch the network because of what executives above him made the decision to do, they'd be perfectly justified. He's trying to run off whatever remaining viewers on that network they've got. Unbelievable! The gall, the arrogance of this man. I heard that and I was just stunned at a time when CNN is hanging on by a thread because they've lost everybody else. They've shredded their credibility over the past 6 or 7 years, or 8, actually, going all the way back to 2015. Russia collusion, Russia hoax, impeachment number 1, impeachment number 2, January 6th, everything else. They have shredded their credibility as a news organization. And then Anderson Cooper has the gall, the unmitigated gall, to tell whatever remaining viewers are still watching his pitiful excuse of a network that he is employed by, that if they chose not to watch CNN anymore, they'd be justified in doing it. Unbefrickin-believable. I tell you what, if I were the CEO of CNN, after he dropped that comment, the moment his show ended that night, his butt would be in my office and I'd give him the absolute chewing out of his life. And what happened to the idea of objectivity? I mean, look, these are supposed to be journalists, news reporters. Now, everybody has known for years there's always been bias in the media, okay? I mean, I can remember as a kid growing up, back when there were actually real journalists who still did the job of TV journalism. You always knew it was there, but at least they tried in some measure to keep it in check. Maybe. And anymore, forget it. The mask is off. They are what they are. Anderson Cooper is what he is. But he's not alone in this. He is not alone at all. And yeah, Robert, you got some Operation Mockingbird stuff coming out right there, baby. Yep. Don't let people think for themselves. Oh no, we have to keep the hive mind intact. You know, just unbelievable, this guy. Unbelievable. But like I said, he's not alone. Not alone at all. Take a listen to this. Joy Reid of MSNBC. This is just amazing. I tell you what, you talk about love among fellow journalists. Listen to what she does here in this clip. This will blow your mind.
And it went about as well as you'd expect. Because Trump won.
Oh no. The white circle of death. Don't do this to me, please. Come on. Back that up and try it again. Oh, come on. Work with me, baby. Work with me. Oh no. This is not good. I cannot believe you're doing this to me this morning. Well, we'll come back to it here in a second and see if we can try it again. But basically, Joy Reid threw Caitlin Collins under the bus. That's right. You heard me correctly. She threw her under the bus. Basically, she said, and I quote, Donald Trump ran over her. And yeah, I mean, she's not wrong. But I mean, how about a little love for competitors or a little understanding or respect or whatever you want to call it? I mean, my God. Just, well, he ran right over top of her. Which, by the way, no disrespect to Caitlin Collins. I mean, apparently she signed some kind of a deal, I guess, to be an anchor during prime time for CNN. I guess, like, I've heard it's like the 9 o'clock slot. I guess it was Don Lemon's old job. Well, if your performance the other night in that town hall is an indication of what you're going to be like in prime time, you need to just stay on the morning show and be done with it. Because I assure you right now, you ain't no Megyn Kelly. Trust me, dear. Not by a long shot. Let me just see if the white circle of death has gone away and maybe this thing's going to work. Hang on a second. Nope. Still got the white circle of death. That was a great clip. But anyway, you get the idea of what she was trying to do. But I will show you something else. And this one, and again, the arrogance of the media just absolutely is astounding. Take a look at this. This is an article from thehill.com. And this was published the morning after the town hall. 5 takeaways from Trump's CNN town hall. Now, I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there's one line in here that absolutely blows my mind. So among the 5 takeaways, thehill.com says that it was a disaster for CNN. Pump this up a little bit. Make it easier for you to read. Well, it's a little too much. That's too much George Santos. Goodbye. Trump did not so much win the event as CNN lost it catastrophically. Not all the blame can be placed on Collins, though there were clearly moments where she could have pushed back faster and more strongly. Now, listen to this next line. If you wondered what the attitude of the press and journalists are in America today toward the American population, or a significant portion of it, you're going to understand what they really think here in just a moment. A far bigger problem was a decision, presumably taken by producers, to have a live audience, quote, made up of Republicans and undeclared voters who tend to take part in New Hampshire Republican primary, as Collins put it in her introductory remarks. What? What the? Pardon my French, but what the hell kind of voters did you expect to be at this town hall? Raging communists? Well, if CNN would have had their way about it, they probably could have done it, but at least the producers tried to do what you would think should be done in a news setting, or at least a town hall. Man's running for president. He does not have the Republican nomination sewn up yet. We're still a long way from the caucuses and the primaries in early 2024. So, yeah, the audience ought to consist of Republican voters. But yet, thehill.com says, it was a far bigger problem that a live audience made up of Republicans and undeclared voters who tend to take part in the New Hampshire Republican primaries, as Collins put it in her. Caitlin, what did you expect should be there? What did you think should be there? Of course it ought to be Republicans and independents. They're the ones going to be doing the voting in the primary. and I will say this of that audience. I will say this of them. They may not have come into that room agreeing with Donald Trump on everything, but there's one point that ought to be made, and it's to their credit. Man, you talk about some very intelligent questions. I mean, they ask questions related to inflation, cost of goods and services, the Ukraine war, a whole host of other things, government regulation, etc. Issues that are on the mind of the base of the people that make up the Republican Party. I mean, I thought the questions were insightful. They were concise, to the point. I mean, honestly, the members of that audience, did themselves a lot of good. I mean, not that they're auditioning for anything per se, although there was a really funny moment. There was this young man who was a pilot, and he was talking about government regulation, and everything else. And before he got through with his question, Trump kind of jumped in and said, "Hey, man, you want a job? I'm looking for somebody to fly." The kid said, "Yeah, I'd love to have a job." And it was a great moment between Trump and his audience, which I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can like Trump, dislike Trump, whatever, but give him this. That man is a master at retail politics. He is good one-on-one with somebody. And you could see that in the exchanges between himself and the members of the audience. I mean, yeah, it was a constant bickering fest between he and Caitlin Collins, or at least that's what she tried to turn it into. But as far as Trump and the audience, there's like real genuine connection. I thought it was very telling, the questions and the love that was displayed for the man. And if you really want some proof of what that's like, this next clip I'm going to show you, Robert, I'm remembering this little trick for next time. Thank you. I'm not ignoring you, brother. But yeah, thank you. I will do that the next time I get the white circle of death. But let me show you something real quick. This was immediately after the town hall ended. Watch this.
Have a good time, everybody. You did awesome, Trump!
Now, you could say that the crowd is being gracious, and yeah, you kind of expect some fanboys and fangirls to be there. But that audience had genuine love for Donald Trump. They really did. And that is what I think, in part, not totally, but in part, is going to cause Donald Trump to be the Republican nominee in 2024. I mean, and there's a whole host of factors that are going to go into it, right? But that man has a bond with the base of the Republican Party that is absolutely remarkable. And, it was on display that night. Like I said, despite the fact that Caitlin Collins was trying to turn it into a bickering session back and forth between her and the former president, Trump accomplished his mission. I tell you what, I mean, as an observer of politics, I've seen Donald Trump in all kinds of situations ever since 2015. But that had to be one of the most composed, smoothest, disciplined, focused performances I've ever seen him give. She tried to rattle him, she tried to shake his cage, and he would have none of it. And he put her back on her heels. I mean, and there is one other thing to consider. And this is not necessarily my original observation, but I'll pass it on for what it's worth. That town hall was in large part for Republican primary voters, but there's also a segment of voters out there that I think Trump and his people may have been trying to reach, and that is the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. voter. Now, we've been talking about this for weeks off and on in videos and in on live streams, etc. You know, RFK Jr. is challenging Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. I don't think he's going to win, but I think he's going to take a serious bite out of Biden. I think anywhere from 20 to 30%. But if he loses the primary to Biden, which more than likely he will, where do his voters go? Now, I don't expect that whole 20 to 30% to go to Donald Trump, but I expect a portion of them could if they are appealed to in the correct manner. It could very well be that the answers that Donald Trump gave that night to the questions he was getting from the crowd, I mean, I think they were genuine. I think that's how he feels. But I also think that there may have been some unconscious messaging to the RFK Jr. voters, and the outreach is begun. So anyway, that's Trump in the CNN town hall. So looks like we're at the top of the hour now. It's about 11 a.m. East Coast time out there for all you folks who are still looking at your clock, and I hope you're not doing it because, damn it, it's the weekend. You need to stop looking at the clock and start enjoying time for yourself, with your family, you know, with your dog, with your cat, whatever. So, you know, and I know a few people have stopped by. Robert Lowry's out there. Brother, good morning to you. I raise a cup in your general direction. We're glad to have you. If you're out there either on the Rumble side or you're on the YouTube side, do me a favor, say howdy. I know there's people that lurk, and that's okay. And if you don't want to say anything, that's fine too, but we're a fairly friendly bunch around here. You know, I'd like to see this thing become a nice little community where we talk about the news. You know, everybody gets to give their opinion, have some fun doing it. So if you're out there, we're glad to have you. And, you know, stop on in, say hello. Matter of fact, I need to do something real quick. Hang on, y'all. Y'all vamp for a minute. I'm just sending out a quick tweet. I love Twitter. I hate Twitter sometimes, but I actually love Twitter. Okay, I'm almost there, folks. Give me 1 second. And booyah. Okay, there we go. So it's the top of the hour. It's 11 a.m. or roughly thereabouts. We're glad to have you. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. And we're going to move on to the next story that we're going to be talking about. And this is one of the bigger headlines of the week. And that is Tucker Carlson's decision to go to Twitter. And this was huge, as they say. Huge. You know, the big question in everybody's mind is, where is Tucker going to go now that he's out at Fox? Or maybe it's better to say, maybe not out as much as he is in suspension, because technically speaking, he hasn't been fired by Fox. They're just not airing his program and still paying him money. And theoretically, that little thing could be going on till, you know, the end of 2024, which I know Tucker doesn't want to do, but, you know, be that as it may. But it's a fairly interesting thing going on right now. It really is. And news finally broke this week of where Tucker might wind up going. And he put out a video telling everyone that he would be going to Twitter to do a new form of his show. So let's take a look at part of that announcement.
It's one of the media's own fact checks. Lawyers would be willing to sign off on it. In fact, they may have. But that doesn't make it true.
I want to move this forward just a little bit, so hang on. There we go.
Think is true. Speech is the fundamental prerequisite for democracy. That's why it's enshrined in the first of our constitutional amendments. Amazingly, as of tonight, there aren't many platforms left that allow free speech. The last big one remaining in the world, the only one, is Twitter, where we are now. Twitter has long served as the place where our national conversation incubates and develops. Twitter is not a partisan site. Everybody's allowed here, and we think that's a good thing. And yet, for the most part, the news that you see analyzed on Twitter comes from media organizations that are themselves thinly disguised propaganda outlets. You see it on cable news, you talk about it on Twitter. The result may feel like a debate, but actually the gatekeepers are still in charge. We think that's a bad system. We know exactly how it works, and we're sick of it. Starting soon, we'll be bringing a new version of the show we've been doing for the last 6.5 years to Twitter. We'll be bringing some other things too, which we'll tell you about. But for now, we're just grateful to be here. Free speech is the main right that you have. Without it, you have no others. See you soon.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the bombshell that went off earlier this week. And a lot of people speculated as to why it is that Tucker would actually hang on to that, Robert. Hang on. Brother, I know where you're going, and trust me, I'm going to be talking about that here in 1 second. Yeah, and it is laughable what's happening to everybody else, because I got some numbers on that. So I'm glad you brought up this point. Robert Lowry is proof of why this audience is the coolest and smartest audience on the internet. That little comment right there, you know. So yeah, hang on to it, Robert. I'm getting to it. But anyway, a lot of people have speculated, why would Tucker, I think this went down on a Tuesday, if I remember correctly. People have speculated, why would he come out so openly and so brazenly telling everybody what he's going to do? Because up to now, he's been trying to negotiate behind the scenes with Fox, because like I said, the way his contract is set up, Fox hasn't fired him. They just took his show off the air, and he's still under contract, which means Fox, all they have to do is pay him. He doesn't go on the air, and he's sitting around twiddling his thumbs. He's getting a big old paycheck doing it, but he's not doing what he wants to do, and that's talk to the American people. Well, an article came out on the same day that Twitter post dropped, and I'm going to show you this. I want to go back to one part of this. Let me find it here real fast. Give me a second here, folks. Hang on. Yeah, the letter from Carlson to Fox officials basically says that they broke promises intentionally and with reckless disregard for the truth. The upshot of it is that Tucker Carlson's lawyers are claiming that the promises that were made to Tucker regarding how Fox would respond to the Dominion lawsuit, or what they would do if it was settled, constituted extra terms of employment between Tucker Carlson and Fox. And basically, in violating those terms, Fox breached the contract, which means the non-compete clause inside Tucker Carlson's contract doesn't matter anyway. He can go do whatever he wants. Now, whether that argument's going to hold up in court, who knows? I think it's a fascinating argument. And you know what? I could see it. I can absolutely see it. I mean, were those things that were talked about related to how Fox would handle the Dominion lawsuit, were they in writing? Were they put in as an addendum to the contract? No. But you can make an argument, and a really good one, that they constitute terms of service. Fox has told Tucker, this is what we're going to do with regard to how we're going to treat you with regard to the Dominion lawsuit settlement. We're going to honor our word on this. They didn't honor their word. They made, Tucker Carlson look really bad in the press. Okay, you just violated your agreements. So yeah, let's see if it works in court. Now, to Robert Lowry's point that he just mentioned a moment ago, How much reach does Tucker Carlson still have, and how much could he yet have again? Take a look at this. That 3-minute tweet that he put out, that little video, this is from thehill.com. Tucker Carlson's tweet announcing new Twitter show tops 100 million views. Going into that article, a tweet from former Fox host Tucker Carlson announcing plans to launch a new show on Twitter is racking up tens of millions of views online. Carlson's tweet captioned, "We're back," amassed 100 million views in less than 24 hours, and the 3-minute video netted 21 million watches of the same time frame. That, ladies and gentlemen, is, as they say, huge. I mean, and I think we ought to have a pretty frank discussion here about what Tucker Carlson going to Twitter is going to mean, not even necessarily for Tucker Carlson, as much as it is cable news. I think everybody will acknowledge, with perhaps the only exception being those who are still involved in the cable news industry, that cable news as an outlet for information is dying a slow death. And there's a lot of reasons for that. The internet, for better or worse, has come into its own as a place where a person can go to find information about a subject that they may be interested in. I mean, for my own self, when I was doing show prep this morning, I would go out to Twitter, I'd go out to this website, I'd go out to that website, I'd find what I was looking for, put it together in a quasi-organized manner that is actually semi-presentable and hopefully doesn't make me come off looking like a loon. But my point, you get my point. I can go out on the internet, find the information I'm looking for. Now, I have to do a little digging, but I can get it. Twitter makes that easier. YouTube could make it easier if they weren't so censorious, but you can find the information you're looking for. Rumble is now an absolutely growing and going concern. They're giving YouTube an absolute run for their money and a fit doing it. Okay? Tucker Carlson going to Twitter and doing a live show is just going to hasten the demise of the cable news industry. People were only watching Fox News by and large for Tucker. Okay? I'm not saying that the rest of the people that are still at Fox News don't have talent. They do. But they don't have the kind of connection or the kind of reach that Tucker Carlson does. Okay? He goes to Twitter. He does like an hour-long show every day. I guarantee you, before it's all said and done, he'll have more viewers, more views, more people watching his videos, listening to his opinions, and he doesn't have to worry about, getting censored. Now, what is this new CEO going to do? I've got a feeling that one of the last things, and I could be wrong about this, it's just my opinion. I've got a feeling one of the last things that Elon's going to do before he turns it over to the new CEO is that there's going to be some kind of a deal inked about what Tucker can and cannot say on Twitter. So we'll see. But when this dropped Tuesday about Tucker Carlson going to Twitter to do his show, it was an absolute bombshell. I mean, everybody, everywhere was talking about it. And there's a lot of long faces at places like Fox, CNN, MSNBC, even the big three networks. Because like I said, their ability to reach people is more or less dying. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, it's not just the advent of the internet as a place where people can go and acquire information. It's just, and part of it also is demographics. For cable news programs, particularly Fox News, their demographic is older voters. And those voters, not trying to be insensitive, are dying off. Younger people are utilizing the internet more and more for the acquisition of information. So this is going to be a big deal with the passing of time. Absolutely big deal. And we're going to be here to keep an eye on the whole daggone thing. A lot to watch about this. An awful lot to watch. So it's about, I don't know, 11:15 Eastern here on a Saturday morning. If you're just dropping by for the first time, welcome to Front Porch Brunch. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. We're glad to have you. I know we've got streams going on Rumble. We've got streams going on YouTube. And we're even streaming on Twitter this morning. So if you don't feel like popping into the other two, well, you can always watch on Twitter and be out and about doing your thing. But hopefully you've got your earbuds in. You're puttering around the house, relaxing, chilling out. And you're just enjoying yourself immensely. So, regardless of what platform you're on, drop a comment, for example, just like this one from Mr. Lowry. The biggest factor is the dishonesty of the media. You, brother, you're absolutely right. You absolutely right. The media has been so dishonest for so many years, and not just liberal media. I put Fox in this category. I mean, they showed their true stripes on or around 2020. I mean, they showed everybody what they are. And now it's reached the point, doesn't matter if you're conservative, liberal, libertarian, progressive, whatever. People are turning away from cable news. They're turning away from the big three networks. They're turning away from newspapers. They still have influence. I'm not saying they don't. But yeah, that grip is loosening. That hold is getting less and less. And their influence is on the wane. Now, they're still fighting that for everything they're worth. They're still trying to be relevant. They're still trying to find a way, as businesses, if you get right down to it, to keep their relevance and their currency alive. But in the advent of an era where you can find information just by a few keystrokes on one of these little babies, why do you need to watch cable news? So yeah, if you're out there this morning, doesn't matter if you're on Rumble, if you're on Twitter, if you're on YouTube, drop a comment, feel free. As I said at the top of the show, we are not monetized on Rumble, on YouTube, but if you're on Rumble and you feel like dropping some coin, please feel free. I will not object, but don't do anything that, is going to put you in a bad situation. I don't ever want to think or know that someone's done that. But if you like what we're doing, drop some coin in the cup. My feelings will not be hurt in the slightest. So that's who we are. That's what we're doing. Let's move on to the next story. And this one, I don't know if the Republicans on Capitol Hill have a bad sense of timing, a bad sense of presentation, or just bad sense. Because the story that I'm going to show you next should have been talked about a whole lot more than what it was. It's an ongoing story that's been out there for a while, but now we're starting to get some hard and fast details about it. And a press conference was held 9 a.m. Wednesday morning, obviously well before the Trump town hall up in New Hampshire that night. And what is being discussed and what is being discovered, if this were any other era in American politics, we'd probably start talking about resignations at the highest levels. So let's get into this headline. This is from the New York Post. Take a look at this. The Bidens pocketed $1 million from, quote, corrupt Romanian oligarch just as Vice President Joe lectured the country on ethics. In an article written by Stephen Nelson, the House Oversight Committee revealed Wednesday that more than $1 million flowed from a corrupt Romanian businessman to the Biden family while then Vice President Joe Biden paid lip service to clean up corruption in the Eastern European nation. Quote, while Vice President Biden was lecturing Romania on anti-corruption policy, in reality, he was a walking billboard for his son and family to collect money, Committee Chairman James Comer, Republican Kentucky, said at the morning press conference. Comer, flanked by other members of the committee, vowed that the panel would get to the bottom of President Biden's involvement in the Romanian income and ventures in nations such as China, Russia, and Ukraine, with more subpoenas for bank and other records. We've seen, and this is a quote, we've seen a presidential family receive We've never seen a presidential family receive these sums of money from adversaries around the world. We're just talking about a couple of countries today. The press conference focused on transfers to the Biden family from China and Romania, two countries where Joe Biden helped lead U.S. policy during the Obama-Biden administration. Quote, I want to be clear, the committee is investigating President Biden and his family's shady business deals that capitalize on Joe Biden's public office and risked our country's national security. We believe that the president has been involved in this from the very beginning, obviously, Comer said. It will be very hard for me to believe that Hunter Biden was so charismatic that he could begin to convince foreign nationals to wire millions of dollars into not just his account, but 8 of his family members' accounts, he added. We believe that there was a return on the investment. Hunter Biden's association with Romanian businessman Gabriel Papavusi is one of the Biden family's lesser-known engagements with dodgy associates in countries where Joe Biden held sway as vice president. Now, I'm not going to read the rest of the article, but you're beginning to get the general idea here. Now, for years, there has been a cloud swirling around the Biden family, and people have been wondering just how was it that Joe Biden went from being a public servant receiving a public salary as part of his services as a member of the U.S. Senate and then the vice presidency, and then millions of dollars start flowing his way to the point that at one point I saw, I think, an estimate of his net worth was like $170 million from the time he left office to current. Now, it is not unusual for a former politician, which he would have been in the period from 2017 up until January 2021 when he was sworn back into office. It's not unusual for former politicians to, be able to better themselves through business dealings. But what Comer and the House Oversight Committee are investigating isn't an issue of, did Joe make money after he was out of office? These business dealings come near the tail end of Obama's second term. And basically, as I understand it, it kind of goes like this. Hunter Biden or his uncle James or other members of the family, but it's particularly Hunter and James, would go into a country, engage in business deals. Okay, fine. They're private citizens. They can do whatever they want. But on several occasions, there would be meetings between these business partners in foreign countries and then Vice President Joe Biden. And that's not a matter of speculation. There are established cases where this has happened. If you don't believe me, go talk to Tony Bobulinski. I mean, there are pictures of Biden with business partners of Hunter's, at golf courses, at restaurants, etc. Basically, it went like this. Hunter and James go into an area. They start doing business. Joe Biden, shakes some hands, takes some pictures, yada, yada, yada. The payoff from these business partners of Hunter and James starts coming in. The money is dispersed around through multiple, and I mean multiple, LLCs, near nigh to the point that it's almost untraceable. Okay? And people are starting to wonder, where did all this money come from? What were these people paying for? What business service were Hunter and James Biden providing? Or were these people paying money to get access to Joe? Or, God forbid, worse yet, were they paying for access to Joe in hopes that Joe would steer American policy in such a way that it would financially benefit them? Now, do we have proof of that yet? No. Some would argue maybe we do, but that's a whole different transaction. I'm not going to go that far yet. I'm just going to talk about what I see in the news. Now, if you're asking for my opinion, and what I'm about to give is purely my opinion, yeah, I think these foreign business people were paying for access to Joe. They wanted, to shake hands, have the picture taken, yada, 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 tell them his concerns. What happens from there happens. But I do know this, and Comer's committee in the House is absolutely bringing this to the fore, that a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money, started flowing out of these countries into businesses owned by Hunter, James, etc., and it flowed around not just to them, but to other members of the Biden family. I mean, you hear the name Haley Biden. That's Beau Biden's widow. She's getting cash. Grandkids are getting cash. And in every so often in some of these transactions, there's an unnamed member of the Biden family who's getting cash. Well, who's the unnamed member? We don't know. So this press conference that Comer and the members of the Oversight Committee held on Wednesday, I tell you what, they're digging and they're digging and they're digging. What happens in all this, I don't know, but I'll tell you this much. If this were a different era of American politics, people would be talking about, the president looking at resignation to avoid a very nasty fight, which gets to something else. And this is a comment about, more or less, what I think the Republicans in the House are going to have to do in the end. I will give James Comer of Kentucky and all the members of the House Oversight Committee, Jim Jordan, the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, all the members of the Judiciary Committee, all the credit in the world. I think they're doing a lot of really good investigative work. Okay? But there's going to come a point, and yeah, Robert, you're absolutely right. It's blatant. They're not even being subtle about this. I agree with you completely. There's going to come a point in all this where the House Republicans are going to have to make a very nasty decision. And it's nasty on a couple of different fronts. It's nasty for the country, and it's also nasty politically. Now, here's what I'm getting at. I've got a feeling in the weeks and months ahead, James Comer is going to keep digging, and finally he's going to put together what is an almost airtight, incontrovertible case against the current sitting president of the United States, showing that when he was vice president, he engaged in corruption, which I've got a feeling the main charge is going to be a charge of bribery. I could be wrong, but I got a feeling that's where this is headed. At that point, the House Republicans have two choices. You either refer the matter over to the Justice Department and let them look at it and decide if they want to bring an indictment against the sitting president or his family members, or you do something about it yourself. Now, here's the risk that you run if you refer this thing over to the Justice Department. Let's be honest about it, folks. The Justice Department has been sitting on their hands where Hunter Biden is concerned for years. Accusations have come forth, proof has come forth that people are slow walking an investigation of Hunter, and they're holding off on bringing charges. And if they do bring charges, many people fear this stuff's going to be a slap on the wrist. Okay? If Hunter is guilty of that which people are suspecting and they're finding the potential evidence of, then to charge him with what he's being charged with, I agree, it's a slap on the wrist. Okay? In my book, Hunter's the bag man. He's the front guy. He's the front man. He's the face of the Biden organization. So if you refer this thing over to the Justice Department, you run the risk that nothing's going to happen. Or if something does happen, it's going to be not nearly what needs to. So that leaves you pretty much with one other option. You could do something about it yourself. What am I talking about? Impeachment. If Comer can find the evidence, and I think he's going to wind up doing it, he'll have to pry it out of some people, but he'll get it. If Comer finds the evidence that I think he's on his way to finding, then I don't think it's going to take very long for people to start talking about articles of impeachment. And unlike the previous 2 attempts at impeachment of the most recent president prior to Biden, I think this one could stick. And that sets up a whole other interesting set of dynamics, which I'll get to in a minute. So yeah, the House could draft articles of impeachment. They could pass them out of the Judiciary Committee, vote them in the House, send it over to the Senate. Now, most people think that, okay, Republican-controlled House, Democrat-controlled Senate. Joe Biden will never be convicted in the Senate. He could be impeached in the House. I think that's going to happen. It might be a partisan vote, but yeah, it'll happen. But he would never be convicted in the Senate. I'm not so sure about that. Now, let me explain why. Look, the Democrats know that Joe Biden is the best option they've got to retain the White House. They also know that Joe Biden is the weakest option they've got to retain the White House. And that latter possibility is causing people to stay up at night. Now, how can you relieve yourself of the problem? Well, look, if Comer brings the kind of evidence that we think that, I and a lot of other people think he's going to find, okay, normally you would say the Democrats in the Senate will band together and not vote to convict Biden on whatever article of impeachment sent over to them. I don't know that that's the case. I mean, look, nobody in the Democratic Party has ever really wanted Joe Biden to be president anyway. Okay? Now here's your chance to relieve yourself of a problem. If the Senate were to convict him, obviously Vice President Kamala Harris becomes president, and really, she's the one that progressives wanted. They put up with Biden because so long as Biden gives them what they want as far as their legislative agenda, they'll just keep on tolerating him. But when Biden is no longer useful to that agenda, they'll dump him. And if they think that Biden could lose, they might just go ahead and let the impeachment process take him out. I mean, we'll see. I mean, I think this is going to be fascinating where it goes from here. I mean, people have been expressing some opinions about this. Let me show you an article from one of my favorite writers, Miranda Devine. The deep state cannot cover the scale of Biden's corruption. Read one little snippet from here. If the bombshells released Wednesday at the House's Oversight Committee press conference had been about the corruption of a Republican president, the clamor for impeachment would have been deafening. But Joe Biden has the protection of the deep state and unscrupulous Democrat lawyers, so accountability will be slower, though no less certain, if Chairman James Comer continues his dogged pursuit of the money. The only business the Bidens were engaged in for all that filthy lucre was selling Joe's influence to the highest foreign bidder when he was vice president, with no regard to national security and with his knowledge of and active involvements involving meeting at least a dozen of Hunter Biden's foreign benefactors. Now that Comer has laid out a documented trail of million-dollar bribes paid to the Biden family, it is unsustainable for the president and the White House to continue to stonewall and deny the truth. Folks, this is going to get really interesting before it is all said and done. Truly it will. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen as far as the country is concerned. This kind of frightens me. It really does. The country is divided enough. I don't want to see another impeachment proceeding. Don't get me wrong. If it's the only way to better the body politic, then okay, yeah, let's do it. Do I know that there's going to be a certain amount of partisan revenge in an impeachment of Joe Biden? Yeah, I know it. But on the other hand, if ever there was an impeachment of a president that had it coming, it's this one. Because like I said, it's reaching the point of incontrovertibility. These facts are that solid. The pattern is there. Hunter and James go in. They start doing deals with business people in foreign countries. Joe meets up with these people, glad hands, has conversations. The only thing that has to be proven is money being tied directly to Joe Biden from these deals and whether any American policy was changed in the process to make it happen. If they can prove that, then you've got grounds for articles of impeachment, in my opinion. So we're going to keep an eye on this as the days and weeks that go by. It's going to be really, really interesting. Really interesting indeed. And now to do my little disc jockey impersonation. It is 11:35 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Brian Trippett. I am your Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to Front Porch Brunch, a little informal gathering among friends where we review the news, give some commentary about it, give everybody the chance to kind of speak their mind. We're out on YouTube, we're out on Rumble, we're out on Twitter. We're glad you're here, and we hope to have the opportunity with the passing of time to grow this thing into something really fun on the weekends. So thank you for being here. If you're out there, I know Robert Lowry's been dropping comments in chat, but don't be a stranger. We'd love to hear from you, especially you folks on the Rumble side. Y'all are a quiet bunch. I love you. Don't get me wrong. Glad you're there, but y'all are very quiet, and that's okay. If you don't want to put in a comment, no big deal either. But we're glad you're here, and let's move on to the next story. And this one's kind of heartbreaking for me. Oh, hang on. I want to talk about that, but we'll get to that one in the HodgePodge section. Because that one's no, you know what? We'll just do it now real quick while it's still kind of fresh on the mind. Last week, there was a story that broke that, going back to this House Oversight Committee, that James Comer and Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, who's the ranking member on the Senate Banking Committee, issued a subpoena to the FBI to hand over an FD 1023. An FD 1023 is an FBI report written by an agent who's had a conversation with a human asset. Well, according to Comer and Grassley, there's a document sitting over at the FBI that basically details a bribery scheme by then Vice President Joe Biden. Well, they gave him till Wednesday to hand over the document. Well, this is what the FBI gave back in response. FBI refuses to give Congress informant file alleging Biden took bribes as vice president. Like I said, Comer's got to keep doing a lot of digging. So, but with regard to our next story, this broke really, it's been building for a while, and it kind of came to a head at 12:01 a.m. Friday morning. Title 42. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Title 42, and I had to go back and do a little digging on this myself, Title 42 is an authority in law that's granted to the Centers for Disease Control, which says that they can send back to country of origin an individual who, may be bringing disease into the United States. Well, at the height of the coronavirus pandemic, President Trump invoked that authority and gave it to the Custom and Border Patrol folks to be able to monitor the southern border and send back, illegal immigrants to their country of origin. And it worked quite well. I mean, there were estimates that, once that Trump invoked that authority, and since then, even in the Biden administration, there's been like 3 million individuals sent back to their country of origin. Well, of course, Biden, being Biden, wanted to basically, change immigration policy in a manner that he felt more comported to values of progressives around the country. And there have been efforts made ever since he got in to end Title 42. Well, he finally got his way Thursday night 12 midnight Friday morning, Title 42 ended. So what does it mean for the country? Well, take a look at this. Show you one number in this article that just absolutely just blows my mind. When Title 42 ends, an estimated 400,000, let me say that number again, 400,000 border crossers and illegal aliens are expected to arrive at the border every month. A foreign population that eclipses the resident populations of cities like New Orleans, Tampa, Cleveland, and Honolulu. Currently, there are as many as 700,000 migrants waiting to rush the border when Title 42 ends. Many will be released into American communities through a series of processes set up by Biden's DHS. I say it makes me sad because Trump and the Border Patrol had the southern border under control. And if you don't believe me, let me show you something else. Now, wait a minute. Before I do that, hang on. I want to play a clip from this week with George Stephanopoulos. And this is on ABC News. And this is from last year, shortly after the Supreme Court ruled that the Biden administration could end the Remain in Mexico policy that the Trump administration had put into place. So Martha Raddatz is interviewing Alex Mayorkas, who's the Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security, and I want you to hear this exchange that goes on between the two of them. Listen to this.
The plan on the border. You really do have migrants flooding that area. The peak was during the Trump administration, May of 2019, at 144,000 crossings. In May of this year, you hit 240.
Hang on, folks. And now we have a reload. Thank you, Robert Lowry, for this. Let me get this back to where it was at. Hang on one second, folks. There we go. Okay, let's try this again. Technology, you gotta love it when it works. So anyway,
the plan on the
or not. Anyway, let's do it this way. Basically, he says, well, we need Congress to pass a new law because our immigration system is broken. Yeah? Take a look at this article from Newsweek. The U.S. Border Patrol is reporting this was back last summer. U.S. Border Patrol is reporting more than 3 times the number of encounters at the U.S.-Mexico border than it experienced under former President Donald Trump. Data from the U.S. Border Patrol and Office of Field Operations compiled by Newsweek show that the average number of encounters under Biden reached roughly 189,000 per month compared to the average of 51,000 during the Trump presidency. Now, I bring up this set of numbers to make a point. It just blows my mind. Now, don't get me wrong. There were peaks and valleys in Trump's administration about the number of border crossings by illegal immigrants, okay? And Martha Raddatz is absolutely right. There was a point when it reached roughly 145,000 in a month. But if you take every month and you average it out over time, the average amount of border crossings attempted by illegal immigrants into this country during the Trump presidency was just a little over 50,000 per month across a 1,700-mile border, okay? In the Biden administration, before Title 42 ended, it was upwards of like 200,000 a month. Under that article we looked at earlier from Breitbart, it's going to be, now that Title 42 is gone, According to estimates, you're looking at about 400,000 illegal border crossings per month. If you're wondering what that works out to in a year, it's 4.8 million people. It cannot be sustained, ladies and gentlemen. It just can't. There's no way to do it. And what'll happen is, after the border crossing happens, these individuals will be assigned a date to appear in court, which is years out. They'll be released into the U.S., and then immigration officials will have no idea where these people are. And on their merry way they go. What does it mean for us, who are already here, who are U.S. citizens? Well, for one, you're going to have probably a potential increase in crime. If your neighborhoods have been affected by fentanyl or other drugs that have come up from the southern border, expect that problem to get worse. And if you're struggling right now because of inflation to make your dollar go as far as it can, just wonder how that's going to be helped when wages are depressed because of an increase in workers. One of the dirty little secrets of the Trump administration, which it wasn't really a secret, was that because immigration was either limited and or under control, and illegal immigration had such a tight rein on it, incomes for the average American worker rose because you have X number of workers, X amount of work to be done, wage being paid, and voila, wages went up. Not so much now, which is kind of frightening. It really is. And that's what makes me so mad about Mayorkas. Our immigration system is broken. We need laws passed. Dude, the same system was in place for Donald Trump, and he didn't have nearly the problems you guys have got. But it doesn't matter to you, because to you it's not about the immigration laws. It's about bringing as many people across the border as you possibly can. And that, sir, is what you're trying to do. It just boggles the mind. And if you wondered what it was going to be like, well, here, let me show you. This came from a video I did the other day about this. Bill McLugan, who works for Fox News out of L.A. This is at the Mexican city of Reynosa, across from McAllen, Texas. These are Haitian illegal immigrants waiting to cross the border when Title 42 ends. Here's another one for you. This is from Savannah Hernandez. El Paso is already in a state of emergency, and the situation will only get worse when Title 42 ends Thursday night. Per Department of Homeland Security, these are not her numbers, this is from them, daily apprehensions at the southern border have exceeded over 10,000 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday of this week alone. It doesn't have to be this way, folks. And that's what breaks my heart. It really doesn't have to be this way. It just, I don't know why there are people in the federal government who hate Americans the way they do. Yes, I said it, and I'll say it again. I don't know why there are people in the American government that hate the American citizenry the way they do. You know, I'll have conversations with family members of mine, and they'll say, I don't understand this. These people, don't they know? I said, and I'll say to them, they don't care. They're supposedly smarter than you and I are, and they're going to impose their world vision on us. They're not listening to the citizens of this country. They think they're smarter than everybody else, and they're going to do what they want to do to bring about their vision of America, which is most certainly not a vision that most people would recognize. And like I said, it breaks the heart. It genuinely does. It doesn't have to be this way. But with that, we're going to switch to a new segment that I call HodgePodge Stew. We call this live stream Front Porch Brunch, and it kind of hit me this morning that we don't really have a section of the show for those stories that are newsworthy, but they haven't necessarily bubbled up to the public consciousness. And it's kind of like hodgepodge. So we're going to start a new section of the show called HodgePodge Stew. And before we do that, again, I'm going to do my radio DJ impersonation. It's 11:50 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm your Front Porch Conservative. We're glad to have you out there, be it on Rumble, be it on YouTube, or be it on Twitter. Glad you're here. As always, drop a comment in chat. Robert Lowry's been chatting me up all morning, and we're always glad to see him here. But if you're out there on Rumble or wherever, just feel free to drop a comment and say hello. We're always glad to hear from you. So we're going to go into this section that I call HodgePodge Stew, and it kind of relates to this whole Title 42 issue that we've been talking about for the past little bit. I got a hold of this story the other morning listening to Steel Toe Radio, which is a show hosted by Aaron and April Imholt on the internet. Those two are a lot of fun, and Aaron Imholt is a superb broadcaster. I've said before, now that I've been doing this for a little while, I try and steal a little something from everybody. You might listen to my broadcast and say, oh, there's a little bit of Rush, there's a little bit of G. Gordon Liddy, there's a little bit of Aaron Imholt. And he came across this story, and I want to set this up. Recently, there was a meeting held in South Shore, Chicago. Okay, so we're talking the South Side, where citizens in South Shore were being told that some illegal immigrants would be located to the South Shore, Chicago. Well, that sets up what we're going to look at next in the HodgePodge Stew section. And that is, take a look at this story from the Gateway Pundit. Headline: Black residents of Chicago's South Shore are not happy about plans for a migrant respite center in their neighborhood. Reading into the article, local leaders in the Chicago South Shore recently held a meeting with residents to talk about a migrant respite center in an empty school building. The elected officials could barely get a word in as residents expressed their anger over the plan. People are concerned about crime and the fact that they weren't consulted on the idea before it began to move forward. Gee, does this sound familiar? The writer of this article goes on to say, these folks sound an awful lot like conservatives. NBC Chicago reported city leaders were confronted with opposition to a proposed plan to shelter migrants, let's just call it illegal immigrants, that's really what they are, at a former high school in the South Shore neighborhood when dozens gathered during a raucous Thursday night meeting. Okay, I'm going to show you a clip from Twitter, and this runs about a minute. You want to know how bad it got for these officials that were trying to present this plan? Take a listen to this.
What's important is that we really establish that this is a humanitarian crisis, and we're here.
South Shore residents responded with resounding rejection.
While this crisis may constitute an emergency for the city of Chicago, it does not constitute an emergency for the South Shore community.
Incoming migrants have overwhelmed district police stations by the hundreds.
It's my turn. It's my turn. Hello.
But city leaders could barely eke out a word of the details about a proposed respite center at the former South Shore High School.
When it comes to the total number of people at South Shore at any given point in time, it is fluid. We'd start with 250, 500.
How could you do that without consulting us? I am concerned with safety in the area.
Okay, well, that went over like a lead balloon. God bless it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, buddy. You got that right. Oh my gosh. They just absolutely ripped the city officials a new one. Okay, basically it gets to this. You got an empty high school. You got illegal immigrants. City of Chicago is trying to figure out what to do with them. Somebody gets the idea, well, hey, we've got this empty high school over here. Why don't we, renovate it, let them stay there. We'll start out with a certain number. Well, okay, fine. So they start rolling down the road with their plans, and they bring this to the citizens of South Shore Chicago, and wouldn't you know it, they didn't like it. Now, this story to me is fascinating on so many levels. Okay, let me ask you all a question. Let me ask you a question. If you weren't watching the screen, had your eyes closed, and you heard these people speaking out quite vocally against this, and you didn't know where they were from, okay, would you assume that these were conservatives anywhere else in the country? Now, I know I'm probably not asking that question the right way or framing it, setting up, but my point is this. This is in the south side of Chicago. These are people that probably voted for Obama twice and definitely voted for Biden. And now they're getting a taste of what that really means. Now, I'm not here to talk about their political persuasions. I find it fascinating that these people on any other issue would probably go along with the Democratic leaders in the city of Chicago. But when it comes to illegal immigration, not in my backyard. No, you ain't bringing that here. Absolutely not. I don't want it. And I find it fascinating, which maybe goes to something that I've always thought for a long time. Maybe there's more that unites us than divides us. Because in the stats on illegal immigration cross party lines. It doesn't matter if you're Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal. Nobody wants this stuff. Nobody wants a wide open southern border. Instinctively and intellectually, people realize what that means. And here you have a visceral reaction. And we're not talking about a huge number. We're talking about what? At a minimum 250, maybe 500. And these people just went 7 kinds of crazy. And you can't blame them. You can't blame them at all. They know what's going to happen. You're probably going to have an increase in crime, a decrease in safety. You're going to have people fighting for the very same jobs that residents of South Shore Chicago are fighting for right now, which makes it tougher on them, which means decreased wages, and God forbid more drugs in the neighborhoods. They don't want any of that. They don't. I've said for the longest time that I think there's coming a convergence of people to a spot where, while they may not agree on everything, they agree on enough to be able to say, I'm willing to stand with you so that there's some common ground to be found again in this country. I really do think that's the case. And I think these folks in South Shore absolutely are proof of that. Like I said, if you or I or anybody else sat down and talked with them, would we agree on everything? Absolutely not. Matter of fact, there might be very little we even agree on, which would probably be the case. But on this issue, where it's pinching their shoe, yeah, I think we'd find some common ground. Oteos says the following. Really need to build a wall or just enforce the border? Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. This thing with illegal immigration breaks my heart. It doesn't have to be this way. It never had to be this way. In the former administration, you had an average of 50,000 illegal border crossings a month. Now, it's at 200,000 a month, and it's going to go even higher now that Title 42 is gone, and the government of the United States is deliberately making this happen. I didn't say letting it happen. They're making it happen. That's what makes my blood boil about the whole thing. It does not have to be this way. Let me tell you something. I vote in every election. I've been voting in every election that I've been in since I was 18 years old. And I've always tried to vote for what I thought was the right thing, even though I didn't always get everything I wanted. But I tell you what, I'm chomping at the bit for the next election to get here. I can't wait to put that senile, demented, pervy thing we've got in the Oval Office out, and his whole administration with him. And hopefully we get the chance to start undoing the damage that he's done in this. His presidency reminds me of a line from Revenge of the Sith, when Yoda looked at Sidious and said, "End to your reign has come, and not short enough it was." That's exactly how I feel about it. Short of some physical calamity befalling him, his term as president has not been short enough. Let me tell you. So that is HodgePodge Stew. And there'll be more stories like that. I'm going to try and add this little section to the show toward the end. HodgePodge Stew, for those of you who may just be stopping by, is a collection of stories that, oh, Ruben, jolly good, my boy. Glad to have you here, son. HodgePodge Stew is going to be a new segment to Saturday Morning Brunch, where we're going to have some stories that may not be as big as some of the others, but they're just as interesting, and they're just as revealing, and we're going to talk about them just as much. So, anyways, we're starting to wrap up Saturday Morning Brunch. It is high noon on the East Coast, or Eastern Standard Time, I should say. I do have one announcement, and this is for this coming Monday at 7 p.m. And let me see if I can pull this up real fast, because I really am looking forward to showing this. Front Porch Productions, as I tongue-in-cheekily call what I do here, is expanding and growing all the time. And to that end, we're adding a new segment, or a new feature, coming this Monday. I'm going to be doing a live interview with the boys from Dangerous Rhetoric, Daniel and Brentley, and we're going to call the new show is called Chatting on the Porch. So if you are available this coming Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern, and even if you're not, you can always watch it later on. That's perfectly fine. But this is the very first Chatting on the Porch. What my vision is for this is basically, I call it an interview. I want it to be more of a conversation with various social media content creators, different individuals from different walks of life, talking about some of the issues that are going on out there. And basically, we kind of figure out where we are. And it's like I've said with everything else. Do I expect someone to agree with me on everything? No. Do I expect they'll agree with me? No. Will I agree with them? No. But at least let's have the conversation. Let's talk to each other. It's like I said, I think we're all finding out in one form or another that there is more that is uniting us than divides us. Yeah, exactly. It's more of a chat than an interview. It's a conversation. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, there's things I'm going to try and do that, I've always said I'll always imitate somebody if I think they've got something good going on. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. This is more of a chat, more of a conversation. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, I follow these guys as much as I can, as much as time and bandwidth allow me. But the stuff that I've seen, these guys are like right on the leading edge of talking about the issue of transgenderism and children in America, along with other people. I mean, I could have probably invited 2 or 3 other people into this conversation. But that's the main thing we're going to be talking about after we get to know each other for a little bit is the transgender movement and children in American society today. What's going on? What are the issues? Etc. So I don't want to give too much of it away, but this is going to be a lot of fun come Monday. So Monday, 7 o'clock Eastern, just like Front Porch Brunch, we're going to be streaming this on YouTube. It'll be on Rumble. It will be on Twitter. So stop on by. We'd love to have you. This is, to me, I think this is going to be a lot of fun, and hopefully you, my audience, will enjoy it. So as we start to wrap this up, go out and have fun this weekend. Unwind from your week. Tell your spouse or your significant other or your family members that you love them. Go touch grass. Be real, have fun. And as always, remember the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, son, it's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money. We'll see you later.